Well, apparently it's not just we Australian voters and Don Argus disillusioned with the quality of our political leadership. Americans have issues with their lot too, but they're getting to vote on it soon. Here to explain all, Professor Margaret Levi, who is visiting political chair at the US Study Centre at the University of Sydney from her home base of the University of Washington in Seattle. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm just interested in, you've spent 3 months on and off here and you've been doing this for 4 years, you were saying. How do you see, what do you see as the differences and the similarities between the two systems? Because I've heard that our debate, we're becoming so fed up and disillusioned, and the vitriol in our debate, some say, is becoming very American in the way we're handling the debate.
Yeah.
Oh, you agree with that?
I do agree with that. Though it's a little hard to explain why. I mean, I can explain the American problem to you better than I can explain the Australian problem.
Well, that's where it starts.
So we've got a number of things going on in the U.S. One of them is simply institutional. So the kind of system that we have has really encouraged gridlock, which is what we're seeing right now. And that makes it very hard for any president to actually get their legislation through.
Yeah, we know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You have that too. When we talk about the decline in trust in government, I would put it a slightly different way. There's always been a certain amount of healthy distrust of government. That's written into both of our systems, and very appropriately so. But what we've seen in the last 20 years or so is an incredible investment by political parties, by major donors like the Koch brothers and others, into really discrediting government. And it's also come from the very top. It came from Reagan, it came from Thatcher in Britain, it came from Howard here, who are really saying the government is not delivering to its citizens and we've got to cut it back, and really focusing on a process which emphasizes reduction of taxes, reduction of spending, austerity to some extent.
Which is a message our Conservative parties have also picked up on.
Right.
I guess the key question viewers would be wondering, I mean, we saw that sort of bitter, almost ridiculous at times, Republican primaries, what went on. So some Australians are a bit surprised at how much of a contender Mitt Romney is proving to be. I mean, it's a very close race, it looks like, according to the polls.
Well, the big issue, of course, is the economy. Right? And the fact that we do have gridlock, and the fact that Obama has not quite gotten his message across to the American public, there has been an insufficient, in my view, kind of legislation and expenditure to really fight the kind of fiscal crisis that we're having there. If we built up infrastructure, if we didn't reduce the public sector, that would help us increase productivity, it would create more jobs. It is back a little bit to the priming the pump.
Yes, no, we know about that too in Europe. But I mean, it's a bit like that, the famous saying in the Clinton election, it's all about the economy, stupid then.
Right.
So at this time, with the jobless not moving or whatever, do you want to give a prediction? I mean, we can see it's going to be a tight race. If it stays where it is now, who would you be betting on?
I'd bet on Obama.
Yeah? Just as the incumbent?
Partially because he's the incumbent, partially because he's a terrific campaigner. I suspect he's a better campaigner than Romney. And I think he's got a problem. There's still a huge number of Americans who believe that he's a Muslim. They can certainly see that he's black.
See, I would have thought that was the least of his problem.
Romney's got I think Romney's problem is bigger. I think we don't...
That he's rich?
That he's Mormon.
Because the debate at the moment is over the Vanity Fair article that showed he had his money in offshore tax havens. That's not as bad an issue in this economy as being a Mormon?
I suspect that's right.
Okay, here's the question. If Obama's hampered by still being a black,
right,
Mormon black, which is more offensive to the hard right?
To the hard right.
I suppose at the end of the day a Mormon is a Republican.
Yeah, but they're very worried about. Some of them are very worried about. It's not the hard right so much. It's the hard Christian.
All right.
Right. It's a certain kind of Christianity that doesn't define Mormon as Christian.
I guess your biggest risk in the election, which we don't have here, is that they can't say, oh well, we've got to vote for one, so obviously a Republican's better. They might just not turn out. Is that the fear?
That's the issue. So what determines an American election, as you know, is the turnout. And there are a whole bunch of things that could discourage turnout. One is if on Obama's side, if he doesn't actually get it going as a campaign like he did the last time, and doesn't rev up his base, there could be a decline in turnout there. The other thing is the turnout of the Republicans. Now, the Tea Party's working very hard, but there are an awful lot of people who just feel pox on both of your houses.
Yeah, we know that one here too.
Yep, nobody's really coming through for us, and why should I vote for anybody?
Well,
and that could hurt the right.
As you leave Australia with only a few days to go, do you have much hope for us, or do you think we're heading down a very sort of slippery path to the US-style polarisation?
I'm worried about it. I don't like what I'm seeing. One of the things I'm seeing in both countries, as I think I mentioned to you, is this total antipathy to anything that's called a tax. That the population cannot distinguish when something...
That there's good taxes that actually
good
are spent
taxes
for your good,
that you spend, you know, that if you want bridges that don't fall
roads.
down, yeah, you need to expend something. And this churning up of this distrust in government, making people believe that if you give government money, it can't do anything right, when we have an immense amount of evidence that while it does lots of things wrong, it does lots of things right.
On that note, and I couldn't agree with you more, and it's glad to hear the sensibleness. Safe trip home.
Thank you.
Lovely to talk to you, Professor Margaret Levi from the US Study Centre and the University of Washington, where she's heading back.